In my interview with Richard Garfield, creator of Magic the Gathering, he talked a lot about card design. In particular, Richard highlighted some of his favorite cards in the game, including this one.
One of my favorite early cards was a counterspell where you countered it and put it on top of the deck, the opponent's deck. And so it wasn't as good as a counterspell in that a counterspell gets rid of the card, but it was very elegant and had some really interesting things with regard to tempo.
After talking to Richard Garfield, I began thinking about what are some of my favorite brilliant card designs from the early years of Magic history. The last time I made a video about brilliant cards, I highlighted a lot of great newer cards, including a couple from Modern Horizons sets, but some of the most brilliant designs of all time are in the old sets, not the new ones. A brilliant Magic card is one that is clear, elegant, and evocative. It's likely fairly powerful, and it may even tell some kind of story. In this video, I want to highlight some of my favorites. These are designs from the pre-modern era, but I won't be including cards that everyone already thinks about when they think about old brilliant cards, so no Lightning Bolt, no Birds of Paradise, no Counter Spell. Instead, these are cards from the next tier of brilliance. Iterative, maybe. Elegant, certainly. The sort of design that would bring a smile to Richard Garfield's face, well, that's certainly my goal here. So without further ado, let's take a look. But first, if you knew there was an easy way to get a great night's sleep every single night, and you knew you could try it out totally risk-free for more than 3 months, would you go for it? Because that's what's offered by Helix Sleep, sponsor of today's video. Helix Sleep makes premium mattresses customized for your sleep needs and conveniently shipped right to your door, but that's not all they make, because Helix knows that some people are reluctant to give up what they know. That's why they've just launched a brand new line of premium mattress toppers that you can put atop your existing non-Helix mattress for Helix quality sleep. Helix offers a wide variety of different mattress topper options, from the dual comfort topper for couples who have different sleep preferences to the Ergo Align mattress topper, perfect for those with lower back pain who are looking for more support under their midsection. And let me just tell you, I sleep on a Helix mattress, and we just got a Helix topper for our guest bedroom, and both are some of the most comfortable night's sleeps that I've ever had. Of course, if you are in the market for a new bed, Helix still offers their complete lineup of premium mattresses, including the award-winning Luxe collections. That's what I sleep on, by the way, a Helix Luxe Dusk mattress, which is great for my needs as a back sleeper who needs a firm mattress. On my old mattress, I used to struggle to sleep through the night, but since switching to Helix, I both sleep great and wake up every morning feeling refreshed. And I'm not alone. In a recent Wesper sleep study, 82% of participants who switched to a Helix mattress saw an increase in their deep sleep cycle. 82%! If a Magic deck saw that kind of success rate in tournament play, it would be the best deck in Magic history. Imagine sleeping on a meta-breaking mattress every night of your life. And right now, thanks to Helix's Memorial Day offer, you can get 27% off your order site-wide using my URL, including any order of Helix mattress toppers. You also get Helix's free bedding bundle with any Luxe or Elite mattress order. Just go to helixsleep.com/Tolarian to get your discount, and thank you, Helix Sleep, for sponsoring this video. All right, in my last video on brilliant card designs, I talked about an iconic card beloved by blue mages of all stripes, Snapcaster Mage. When Snapcaster Mage was first previewed, players' first frame of reference for it was that it was a build-your-own version of another beloved card, first printed in Apocalypse, which also happens to be this video's honorable mention. Mystic Snake is everything a brilliant design should be. Clean, evocative, and powerful. For 1, a green and double blue, you get a 2/2 with flash that reads, when this card enters, counter target spell. Mystic Snake is a banger straight out of the smush 2 cards together school of card design that also gave us Lightning Helix and Absorb, which are themselves brilliant cards. But what about Mystic Snake? Well, when you break down the mana cost, stat line, and ability, you can separate the card into 2 distinct cards that date back to the original Magic the Gathering set, Alpha, Grizzly Bears and Counterspell. You see, Grizzly Bears is a 2/2 that costs 1 and a green, and Counterspell costs double blue. And Mystic Snake, therefore, is both. 1 and a green plus double blue. Mystic Snake answers the question, can a creature be a counterspell? There were plenty of creatures prior to Mystic Snake that could be tapped or sacrificed to counter a spell, but until Mystic Snake there had never been a creature that was a literal counterspell. It was therefore a great decision to choose Grizzly Bears as the creature to strap to the counterspell. Grizzly Bears is an iconic card in its own right, but it's also extremely simple. For the first iteration of a new bastion of card designs, starting simple is always best. It actually took 5 full years for Wizards of the Coast to print another creature counter spell, which was Draining Whelk in Time Spiral. There have been many more since then, though, from the fan favorite card Spell Stutter Sprite to a more direct homage, Frilled Mystic. But it all truly began with the brilliant design that is Mystic Snake. And again, Mystic Snake was in many ways the progenitor of cards like Snapcaster Mage, so thank you again, Mystic Snake. Alright, time for the true top 5. First is an iconic card draw spell, one that revolutionized what was possible for raw card advantage. Can you guess which Torment card made the top of our list? If you guessed that we would be beginning this list proper with Deep Analysis, you are correct. Deep Analysis is a blue sorcery that costs 4 mana and has a simple effect. Target player draws 2 cards. The most important line of text on Deep Analysis, though, is the second one. You can flash back Deep Analysis for 1 generic, 1 blue, and 3 life. The absolute most juice you can get out of Deep Analysis is drawing 4 cards for the cost of a single card. In other words, a freaking lot of juice, but the beauty of Deep Analysis is not in squeezing the maximum juice that you can from it. No. The beauty is in discarding or milling over Deep Analysis, then effectively having access to the flashback mode for free. Torment was the second ever set to feature flashback, so designers were still only scratching the surface of a keyword that would go down as one of the most iconic Magic mechanics of all time. A number of other powerful flashback cards had already been printed. Firebolt and Seize the Day, Roar of the Worm, and its various green creature token making counterparts. These, by the way, were all printed in Odyssey, the first flashback set. But while flashback provides an organic form of pseudo card advantage, giving your spells utility in the yard, Deep Analysis was the first to combine that pseudo-card advantage with literal card advantage. The result was a card that would see tons of play for years to come. It was great with discard outlets like Careful Study, Wild Mongrel, and Psychotog, and it's great in decks that can mill it over with Mental Note or Thought Scour. It can even be good in dredge strategies as a means of dredging with a spell that you can cast from your graveyard. The combination of cheap flashback cost plus the steep cost of paying 3 life, all at sorcery speed, gives the card texture. You can't just fire this off willy-nilly. The cards you draw will put you ahead if you can stabilize, but the loss of life means your opponents will have an easier time killing you before you can use the cards that you draw. That inherent tension between a card's upside and downside is a key component of many of Magic's best designs. Alright, next up we have another flashback spell, this time from Judgment, the 3rd flashback set ever. Number 4 on our list is Lava Dart, the little burn spell that could. Lava Dart costs just 1 mana for an instant that deals 1 damage to any target. Puny, right? Well, hold on. It also has flashback for the cost of sacrificing a mountain. Judgment was the first set to experiment with alternative ways of paying for flashback costs, aside from just spending mana. It's the set that gave us Prismatic Strands and Battle Screech, both of which are Pauper All-Stars, by the way. Not to mention, it's the set that gave us Cabal Therapy, which can be flashed back for free using creatures in various ways. But the most elegant and, in my opinion, brilliant of the flashback cards in Judgment is Lava Dart. You look at this card and you think, it only deals 1 damage? What's the big deal? Well, here's the big deal, matey. It deals 1 damage to any target twice. In other words, this card is more like Forked Bolt than Gut Shot. Yes, you have to sacrifice a mountain in order to cast it for free, but red aggressive decks are full of cheap creatures, end the game quickly, and don't often have much card selection to prevent flooding, meaning that it is very common to have a mountain lying around that you're not going to mind sacrificing to cast this for free. Of course, just like with Deep Analysis, you can mill over Lava Dart for value, as often happens these days with Dragon's Rage Channeler. When Lava Dart was printed into Modern in the first Modern Horizons set, Reed Duke was thrilled.
Lava Darts.
Holy cow, this is one of my favorite cards from the old days.
Oh, look at that. Flashback also.
It didn't take long for newer modern players to see why. First of all, there were so many 1-toughness creatures in Modern that Lava Dart straight up kills. And it could kill as many as 2 of them with a single copy. More importantly, each time you cast Lava Dart, you trigger Prowess. A single Lava Dart pointed at your opponent's face does as much damage as Lightning Bolt does if you have a Monastery Swift Spear in play alongside each burn spell. And if you have 2 Swift Spears, then Lava Dart actually does more damage than Lightning Bolt. To take an effect as weak as dealing a single damage to any target and find a way to make it a powerful Magic the Gathering card was nothing short of a stroke of genius. I cannot stress what a brilliant card design this is, and all from Magic's early pre-modern era. Bravo, Lava Dart. Take a bow. But it's not the only card that should take a bow, because number 3 on our list is the quintessential enters the battlefield creature, and wait a sec. Quintessential ETB creature and it's a wall? What? Oh yeah, number 3 on our list is an actual wall, and no, it's not because of Arcades the Strategist. The card? It's Wall of Blossoms, a 0/4 defender for 1 and a green that draws a card when it enters play. Enters the battlefield effects are a core part of Magic creature design these days. One of the primary critiques players have about how powerful creatures have gotten is that they all accrue value the moment they enter play. A removal spell doesn't actually answer a creature with a good ETB cleanly. Your opponent still gets whatever value entering the battlefield gave them. But for as prevalent as ETB effects are in 2025, when Magic the Gathering first started, there really weren't many, if any. In fact, many of the initial ETBs were downsides rather than upsides. When this creature enters play, sacrifice a creature, sacrifice a land, discard a card, and so forth. Magic designers were clearly afraid of the power inherent to cards that stick around after they're played, dealing damage turn after turn. If that creature drew a card too, yikes. To see how scared Wizards of the Coast was to print a creature that replaces itself on entry, check out 2 of its predecessors, Pike Knight and Carrier Pigeons. 3 and 4 mana 1/1s that, wait for it, draw a card, wait for it, at the beginning of your next upkeep. Oh, very brave, Wizards. Bold designs there. We're so proud of you. It's no wonder then that the first good instance of this effect couldn't attack. But what a card Wall of Blossoms is regardless. A roadblock for aggression that replaces itself, meaning you don't lose any tempo when you take a turn putting the wall into play. This kind of card also adds consistency to your deck, as it shows you more of your deck, helping you hit your land drops and find your key cards. These days, it feels like every creature draws a card when it enters play, but before Wall of Blossoms was printed, such an astounding display of card advantage strapped to a nicely statted body was unthinkable. So the next time your opponent casts Fable of the Mirror Breaker, be sure to say a quick thank you to the wall that started it all. And if ETBs are the name of the game in contemporary creature design, modal spells are where it's at with instants and sorceries. Number 2 on our list is the great granddaddy of them all, a modal spell whose yin and yang design created one of the most brilliant cards of all time. Our number 2 pick for most brilliant pre-modern design is Fire. No wait, it's Ice. No wait, it's Fire and Ice. And while it's not the first instance of a modal spell, that honor would be the Charm Cycle from Visions, I feel very strongly that Fire and Ice is still essentially the mother of all modal spells. Fire and Ice is the Izzet installment of the first cycle of split cards. 5 enemy color pairs sideways printed cards from Apocalypse. Each of the 5 cards attempts to pair dichotomous concepts associated with each color of the enemy pair with one another. So Fire and Ice, Life and Death, Night and Day, Order and Chaos, and Illusion and Reality. Of these, only Fire and Ice was successful. The purpose of split cards is to provide you with options. But those options are only valuable if they're both something you conceivably want to do in a game. Each of the other Apocalypse split cards are too different from one another to serve much of a purpose within the same deck. But we're not talking about what didn't work in this cycle. We're talking about what did, and oh boy, did Fire and Ice work. Both halves of Fire and Ice are useful effects, whether you're pinging down a pair of creatures or tapping a land on your opponent's upkeep while drawing a card. Furthermore, they're both useful in the same deck, as they both generate a kind of tempo, either burning down some early creatures when you're up against aggro, or tapping an opponent's land to freeze out their counter magic when you're up against control. Essentially, two halves cover one another's bases really, really well. Fire and Ice has seen all sorts of play in all sorts of formats, but most players these days know it for the role it served in the dominant Teamer Rhinos deck in Modern in the first few years after Modern Horizons 2. The play pattern of ice your land on turn 2, cascade into Rhinos on turn 3 with Force of Negation backup was a play pattern that few Modern decks could beat. The success of Fire and Ice solidified split cards as a design space. Every iteration of split cards moving forward, from the fuse cards of Dragon's Maze to the MDFCs introduced in Zendikar Rising, has Fire and Ice to thank for their existence. Fire and Ice is likely also responsible for the beloved Electrolyze, a sort of fusion of the two modes of Fire and Ice. But as great as many of its successors are, there is no card in Magic the Gathering that feels quite like casting either side of Fire and Ice. So what is my number one pick for the most brilliant pre-modern card design? Oh, I forgot. Dang it. It was right on the tip of my tongue. If Wall of Blossoms paved the way for creature-based card draw, then our number one pick set the standard for creature-based creature removal, and that card is Flametongue Cavu. Flametongue Cavu is 4 mana for a red 4/2 that deals 4 damage to a creature when it enters play. Now, before I begin to explain what makes Flametongue Cavu, also known as FTK, such a brilliant design, I have to give credit where credit is due. Unlike Wall of Blossoms, which is the first ETB draw a card creature with no downside or delay, FTK is not the first creature-based removal spell. That title is actually split 3 ways between Man-O-War, Necrotal, and Uktabi Orangutan, all from Visions. What's that, kids? No, don't mind the monkeys in the back of Uktabi Orangutan's art. They're telling secrets. And you know what happens when you tell secrets? Wow, there's a whole story here. Moving on. These 3 cards are great designs, the first creatures who enter play and immediately mess with your opponent's stuff. And while I want to acknowledge that they were the first to do this, I must also admit that they each are missing that X factor which Flametongue Cavu possesses, the ability for a card to transcend from simply an early design into a famous one. Go ask any established Magic player to name the most iconic removal spell on a stick, and I bet you that most will say, without a doubt, it's Flametongue Cavu. It's not hard to see why Flametongue Cavu has come to represent its class of creature. The card is format warping. Putting a 4-power creature into play while removing your opponent's best creature is a tempo swing that is difficult to recover from. When Flametongue was in Standard, it single-handedly erased expensive creatures with 4 toughness or less from the format. The effect is evocative too. Since it's dealing damage that equals its power, it creates an image of a beast showing up and immediately popping another creature with a fireball. It makes sense intuitively. Flametongue also has a built-in downside, one that Man-O-War established 5 years prior. If there are no other creatures in play when Flametongue enters, it deals that 4 damage to itself. Ouch. There have been no shortage of Flametongue Cavu variants printed into Magic in the 2+ decades since Flametongue first arrived on the scene. Many of them have been standard playable, such as Ravenous Chupacabra from Rivals of Ixalan. And the aforementioned Urtai Resurrected is a homage to both Flametongue Cavu and Mystic Snake. But no FTK variant that's been printed before or after this dim-witted, thick-skulled genetic mutant has had quite the same cachet. Nor have any been quite as strong as Flametongue until recently. Flametongue Cavu had remained a staple of Vintage Cube for more than 2 decades, until, yes, it was replaced by the ultra-pushed Pyrogoyf, which came along with the release of Modern Horizons 3. Horizons sets, ruining not only Modern and Legacy and Pauper, but also Vintage Cube? R.I.P. FTK, R.I.P. These 5 masterpieces of Magic design just go to show how brilliant and elegant some of the older and earlier cards were. They are the ancestors of many cards that you and I love today, and it is always fascinating to take this walk down memory lane and appreciate where we came from. But now I want to hear from you. Do you agree with my picks for brilliant card designs from the pre-modern days of Magic? Are there any cards that you think I should have included but didn't? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked this video, check out my last video focusing on brilliant card designs of the newer era. Or if you'd like to swing in the opposite direction, I've also released videos on the stupidest and the dumbest Magic the Gathering designs. Stupid and dumb. Those are different categories. We are not out of ideas. Stop saying that. Go watch and see the very clear distinctions. Also, remember to subscribe and hit the like button. Ring the bell. Support us on Patreon. Check out our Discord. Follow me on Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Mastodon, Threads. And thanks once again to Helix for sponsoring this video. Helix offers high-quality mattresses and mattress toppers delivered right to your door. And right now, thanks to Helix's Memorial Day offer, you can get 27% off your order site-wide when you use my URL, including any order of Helix mattress toppers. You also get Helix's free bedding bundle with any Luxe or Elite mattress order. Just go to helixsleep.com/Tolarian to get your discount today. And thank you, Helix Sleep, for sponsoring this video.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
Welcome to Shuffle Up and Play. Today, it's our fan episode. We have brought fans out to play with us today, and I'm so excited, especially because I've brought out my biggest fan, Voxy. You just love Tolarian Community College. Try looking a little excited to be here.
The daggers in her eyes.
This is how Brian Kiblet feels all the time. Big dragon, this is so cool. Yeah, like flip my card.
That is exactly what Brian Kiblet
It
sounds
is true.
like. I've
It
met
is-
him.
it sounds like.
I'm gonna swing.
Yeah, we all know where it's coming.
We're the problem.
Yeah. If I eat the other two, are they just gone?
Ass is not a swear.
Yes, it is!
No, it isn't.
Do you want a hug?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll come.
People are mean to me on the internet.
It's an O2.